Outreach. Great. Okay, today is May 30th, and this is the general community meeting. So in terms of outreach, we are working on two things at the moment. One is a CDF workshop that Sime arranged with Steve. And the topic is, Sime, do you have the topic off the top of your head?
Yes, Jay. Yes, Tracy. Securing your CI/CD pipeline.
Securing
Securing
your
a CI/CD pipeline from code to deployment.
And Steve Taylor will be presenting that. We have submitted an abstract, and Sime, I went ahead and responded to Roxanne with who should attend. So that should be all set up, and it's scheduled, I believe, for June 22nd, and it'll be a little over an hour long. And Steve will go through the different tools that we've been using with Ortelius, talk about how to implement Scorecard and some other activities that he has done for both Deploy Hub and Ortelius. I'm also working on a joint presentation with Tony that we'll submit to the Open Group, which is having their conference in Houston in November. And Steve and I will be attending at the end of October, the Linux Foundation's Leadership Summit is October 24th through the 26th. And the Open Group's summit is, I believe, November. There's almost the same.
First and second would be the supply chain days.
Yeah. So supply chain will be November 1st and 2nd. So we'll be flying to Monterey, and then I'll probably turn around and fly to Houston with Tony. So that's really what's on the books so far. We do have, I don't believe that we are going to participate in Summer of Code, Google Summer of Code. I'll let Steve respond to that. But we will in October be participating in the DigitalOcean Hackathon. So we've sort of entered, since May is done and we've finished our CDCON Open Source Summit and OpenSSF Days, we're sort of on quiet time between now and the end of until October in terms of attending any presentations. We do have the opportunity.
Are we going to, Tracy, also reduce the number of meetings between, say, now and October?
Yeah, we usually take the entire month of August. We have no meetings, and that might be a good idea. Maybe we just do, we could probably not do the community meeting and just do the outreach and the, we could probably be doing an outreach meeting once a month, but I think the architecture meetings might have to heat up, because we have a lot to do around Emporus. So let me look at the calendar, Tony, and I'll implement that recommendation so we can cut down on the meeting times until we start again in October.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Steve, you want to do any kind of update?
I can give an update too. So just quickly, we spent some time with Brad. With August CD. It was Arvind, myself, and Utkarsh, I think. Utkarsh, it was the three of us, right? So Brad is starting. I'm just letting you know that Brad is starting to engage with us in that side of things, and he fixed some stuff there, and he's going to have another session with us when he's got time. So we couldn't have a proper session because he had to fix stuff. Took him like 4 hours, he said.
Yeah. And after that, the integration that we worked upon, right, on the backstage, that is working. So we were like able to see all the services, pods, and across multiple groups in the backstage environment. That is up and running right now.
Yeah.
On the plugin side, Brad said like he would need a couple of like he would like identify like what is the requirement and how these flows work in Ortelius, right? So that he can implement those things in a similar way.
And that's for Argo or for Backstage, the flows?
For Backstage. For Backstage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And then on my side, we've been trying to get the infrastructure in place for all the new microservices. So Utkarsh and Arvin have been working on that. And so hopefully we'll get that all sorted out this week. We're kind of moving towards the direction of reusable workflows that allow us to make changes in one place instead of multiple places. So that's happening on that front. On my to-do list is still to go out and add the bounties to the new issues. I just haven't had a chance to get to that. And I gotta get the architecture updated as well. So I'm behind on those two things. And then if anybody is interested, the Persia project is looking for 2 folks to be on the governing board. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. What they're trying to do is they're trying to, the project's kind of stalled. And what we need to do is kind of rework that from a bootstrap governing board to an official governing board, and then kind of rework the code base on that front. The interesting thing is there may be a close fit between the Persia project and Emporis. I'm still feeling that out, but there may be some capability there on that front that will be able to kind of tie together Persia, Emporis, and Ortelius kind of all together and kind of have a bigger end-to-end solution using those projects. So that's one of the things that's kind of happening on that front.
Steve, do you think I can add value there?
Yeah, it's the focus will be around there's 2 things, an artifact repository, and the second part is around build consensus. So basically using blockchain to drive consensus between multiple build nodes.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, on the governing board side, I think there'll be a couple meetings. There'll be some more frequent meetings as we get started, and then I'll probably go to like quarterly meetings at that level.
I have the Persia meetings in my calendar already.
Yep. Those are like the standing meetings, and like I said, the project's kind of stalled and we got to rework things, and that's part of the what we got going on. So Stephen Shin from JFrog reached out to me last Friday, trying to restart the project, and in order to do that we have to rework the governing board part.
It's like a package managing type of idea, right? Also.
It is, and so their idea was to do a distributed package network.
Yes, that was it.
Was one part of it, and the second part was the build consensus network. So on the first part, because of the work we've been doing with Emporis, and Emporis being an OCI registry that you can store any type of artifact in, that seems to be a good fit to do the distributed package network for Persia. Basically what we do is you layer the OCI registry on top of IPFS, which is basically what we're using on the Ortelius side under the covers for the NFT storage.
That fits quite nicely into Ortelius then.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how the things are kind of merging together. So we have and because of the Emporis is going to allow you to search the OCI registry, you know right now there's search capabilities for like Docker images, but the work that Andy and his team have done allows you to search and find like jar files, for example, so any type of artifact. So that will be one of those things that we'll be able to leverage on that front. And that was kind of, if you look at some of the Emporis architecture documents and design, they talk about adding other artifacts like jars and NPMs and stuff like that into the artifact registry. So I think the first step, and I found another project that basically on the OCI registry side implements IPFS storage driver. So it's a
cool.
Golang program that we can spin up and basically build this distributed network pretty easily. Now there's other pieces, so that's just like the artifact side. And then on the build side is where you take the same code from the same git commit and you build it like on 6 machines to be able to come up with to say that you've created the same artifact from the same code. So basically making sure that nobody's hacking a single build machine at that level. So there's going to be some work on that front. And then the blockchain comes into play where all the build nodes have to come to consensus that they created the same thing and add it to the blockchain. So that piece, I have to look at how we can fit that together. But things that like on the build side, when the builds go through, and you compile that package or create that image, that artifact, that we should be able to add in like automatic SBOM generation type of thing as part of that process. So Ortelius would then be able to consume what Perseus is creating at that level. So there's this, things are weaving together. It's still a little bit of it up in the air, but I think things are everybody seems to be marching in the same general direction here.
Where do I sign up, Steve?
I will get you on the list.
Thanks, Steve. I'm joining. That's you're on there, right? You're on
Yeah,
I'm
so right now the proposed governing board is going to be Stephen Chin from JFrog, Johan from Logden. He's in Belgium. He's one of the guys that was working on the project, then myself, and then we're looking for 2 others. So Sasha, I'll put you on the list. And
I'm unemployed, so I need to do something.
All right.
I get that. I get bored too.
No, I can't sit still. It's impossible. It's ridiculous.
It's impossible for me too.
I need to contribute to something some way, somehow.
Yeah. So that's kind of the game plan on that front. And I may reach out to like Alex or Kat from the Emporis side, from the registry side, to see if they are interested. I know Andy's too busy, so
I think
Where's-
we could, Kat or
Yeah.
Alex would be, or Jen for that matter, any of those 3.
right. That's what I'm thinking. I gotta hunt them
Where's the
down.
most work needed? Is it in coding, or is it like a coding infrastructure or operation?
So I think it's for Ortelius, we have a lot of coding to do, but I think what we've been doing the last couple of weeks is getting the infrastructure in place. So things are stubbed out basically. So what Arvin's rolled out is stubbed out versions, so we're able to run the infrastructure, create Helm charts, and be able to run the Helm charts locally through Kind or K3S. It's kind of the goal with the new version of Ortelius. And then we can start adding on more coding functionality in the front end at that level. So one of the things that we ended up doing on the current version of Ortelius is we've kind of been back-ending in all the security stuff, and it's just been taking much longer. So if we can kind of, from that experience, implement it into version 11 right off the bat, I think it'll save us a lot of time.
Ooh, Do you think we could put Persia in the books?
Uh,
Persia.
probably not, because right now it's written in Rust and it does run in Kubernetes and stuff like that. But I think that code we need to throw away and implement like the OCI registry and sitting on top of IPFS. So there's gonna be some like proof of concept stuff that we need to work on that front.
Ooh, POCs, those are fun.
Yeah, and being able to store like a jar file or a Python library into the OCI registry is going to be one of the keys there for Persia and for Emporis. So there's the overlap on that front.
So are you going to use REST for this blockchain implementation as well?
I don't know yet. Originally, the Persia team was going to write their own blockchain implementation using, I think, Ethereum and a bunch of Rust, libp2p libraries and stuff like that. And it just got overly complicated. The distribution of the blocks and stuff like that. So that part is up in the air on how we can easily do the blockchain and get it distributed across all the nodes. So I figured out how to do the OCI registry. I have a good idea how to do the build side. The consensus in the blockchain and distributing the blockchain is up in the air right now. I just haven't had time since Friday to figure that out on what needs to happen there. Like when we on the Ortelius side, when we talk to the blockchain, we're just using it for more historical immutable ledger pieces. And we're not really worried about consensus and stuff like that. The XRPL will kind of take care of the consensus behind the scenes for us, from what I've seen, like in the work that you've done, Utkarsh. But I have to look at if XRPL could be used for Persia as well. Because one of the interesting things with XRPL is it's based on proof of consensus instead of like proof of stake or any of the other ones. So it has some stuff already built in that we may be able to leverage on that front.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the big thing when Persia started. They were trying to implement everything in Rust, and the libraries seem to lag behind, like the Golang and the Node.js and things like that. So, and the Rust is such a steep learning curve for coding. You're talking at least a year or two to get anywhere close to being able to write decent code in it. It's a funky language.
Yep. I'll definitely join the group because like a lot of exciting stuffs are going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like every time I am running the dependabot script, it is making a release of that repo.
Oh, it's creating a release.
Yes.
It should just well, what will happen on the dependabot side is it should create a PR, and then you go and approve and merge the PR, and that would go ahead and kick off a new build of the Docker images. And those Docker images will have their corresponding Helm charts, and the Helm charts actually get published as a release. So that is correct. So it's actually the Helm charts, because the Helm chart actually has the value, the build tag inside of it. So that's how we tie all the Helm charts and the images together, is through the release. Now, when that a a microservice finishes building and the Helm charts are updated, we actually go back up and update the parent Helm charts accordingly. So we do get a lot of releases, but they're technically correct, because if, let's say, you have a one of the dependent bots doesn't go through correctly and the build fails, the parent chart will reflect the current state of what we can release. So even though we end up with a lot of releases, they're all potential candidates to be runnable at that point.
Oh, okay, I got it. I thought I was doing something wrong because I know releases like take a lot of space on the GitHub, and we have memory limits.
Yeah, it's just the nature of how the microservices are kind of put together. And what we'll need to do is when you go and deploy something, let's say we deploy we pick a Helm chart, a version of the parent chart to deploy. That gets deployed, and then on the back end side, from the cluster side, we went on to recognize that these components were deployed, and this is the version of the application that was actually released. So there's some stuff that we need to kind of cross-reference on the deployment side. Right now, we're really not deploying anything anywhere yet. And hopefully with Brad's changes to Argo, that we'll be able to get some automated deployments over to Azure in place. Because we have all the automation in place to where we create the parent Helm chart and all that stuff and all those releases. It goes out to Artifact Hub and everything looks good on that front. You know, all the security scanning's in place. So the next part is to get the Argo in place to go ahead and synchronize out to between our Git repo and Azure.
Okay,
So-
I got it.
So Steve, just a final question from my side. I want we have to present our amorphous stuff into 6-store, one of the 6-store call. So if I plan this up, like if I try to set some talk with the 6-store community, so I want we can jump this amorphous stuff into some of their community call. I think it's currently happening at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't. We haven't implemented any anything with SigStore yet, so I can't really talk about what how that whole, you know, what we're doing with SigStore and any of that at this point. So that is one of the things that we need to enable in our DevOps pipeline, is when we do our Docker builds and our Helm charts, that they actually get signed with cosign. But we're not quite there yet. There's some key management that we need to figure out on that front.
So still, like, if amorphous, do you think, like, is it work with 6-store tooling, like signing images? At this point, a few of the more tools in the 6-store ecosystem, like amorphous, can work with 6-store tooling. Can you think of the use case as of now?
Right now, like I said, I haven't gotten it into enough details around the signing pieces to see how and where those get actually put in place. So we are actually signing our Helm charts, but with GPG keys and not like cosign at this point. So that's just because the Helm command line doesn't do, it only is using GPG keys. So it's too early to say, Sim, on how things are going to be able to fit together with SigStore and cosign.
I think it would be a valuable effort if the Amorphous somehow integrate with some of the functionality with 6-store tooling. The reason I'm saying is because the 6-store tooling is integrated very well with policy engines like Iverno. And then Flux is also integrating with 6-store tooling by signing the OCI artifact. If Amorphous become a part of it, I think it would be, I think it is give us a lot of opportunity to go on different places as well. So that is currently my thinking is, so we have some integration should be in mind for the 6-store tooling. And also I came across this tool I shared on the Zoom that's called confidential containers.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. Let's see.
So I think there is some of the stuff is already been happening, but this is the announcement from MS Build. The Azure has this concept called Azure Confidential Containers or Azure Confidential Computing. Azure Confidential Computing, they announced in MS Build, and this product is actually being developed by Red Hat and Alibaba, I guess. And there is a company called who is actually developing this tool. It's very difficult to pronounce this company's name, but I think it's called Profians. Profian. So I think these two things we have to take into the consideration seriously. Number one, to have integration with the confidential containers, and plus for 6-store tooling. I think 6-store tooling is must for us.
Yeah, so
for
what ends up
Amorphous work.
Yeah, so what ends up happening is because we're talking to an OCI registry, basically is what Amorphous is doing is it really isn't an OCI registry itself. It's the search capabilities for an OCI registry. So if there's an OCI registry out there and the spec has been updated to handle associating the signing to the artifact, that's where, so somebody else has to do that, and then we'll be the consumer of it. So for example, build kit allows you to, when you do a Docker build, like Docker build X, will enable, you can enable flags to do signing and attestations, and that information produces a bunch of other files that that eventually end up in the OCI registry. And then for us, it's just a cross-reference to those. So it'll actually be more of an Ortelius thing than an Amorphous thing. And we have that in the spec, kind of in our design to track the signatures and being able to, we have a couple microservices that will, you can say, validate. We have a validation microservice, for example, that would take the information that we have about the signing and go and actually do the verification with the keys and everything to say, yes, this thing that you are referring to is signed and we validated the keys on the back end. So that part is there.
So I'm just sharing one more thing, Steve. The Chain Guard company actually recently announced, I think 2-3 days ago, the container image registry for Chain Guard images.
Right. Yeah, we use those in our stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Like I think we can talk more on the Discord as well, but I'm thinking like we have to integrate ourselves with some of the most used tooling in the either on the supply chain security side. So from as far as I know, I might be wrong, but the way I see the community is building and the stuff is happening is more and more tooling is actually integrating with 6-store tooling. So Amorphous can give us opportunity to present ourselves in more center stage around supply chain security. But I think we need to find how we can integrate some of their stuff, or how we can actually end up in a position that we can convince them to use our stuff in their tooling as well. I think there is two roadmap we can follow, but there's a potential of being in this ecosystem.
Yes, I totally agree. I have to run to another meeting, so we'll continue this on the architecture meeting
Cool.
Yes,
Cheers,
absolutely,
guys.
absolutely.
and on Discord. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
bye-bye.